Adam, more roster movement for the Tar Heels. Vin Allen Lubin said he was going in the portal with the intention to return, which doesn't make a lot of sense. And Drake Powell has entered his name in the NBA draft. He does have the option still to return, although certainly his public statement did not make it seem like he was entertaining that idea. Whether that is the case privately or not, maybe a different discussion. Adam, you're down to 2 scholarship players, if I'm not mistaken. Well, and Zayden High, I guess. So you're down to 2 guys who were on the active roster last year. Seth Trimble and James Brown. And then Zayden High, who had some off-the-court issues, was on the team 2 years ago, had some off-the-court issues, but appears that the likelihood is that he would be on the roster next year. It appears that way. So, Adam, this is going to be a totally different team, which I don't know about you, I kind of have mixed feelings about. Obviously, Carolina needed to be better. They were too inconsistent last year. And yet, one of the things that Bubba talks about becoming more consistent as a program than the Heels have been the last 5 or 6 years, is also retaining players. So it is a brand new team in an important year for Carolina in a roster that I'm guessing isn't complete yet, but maybe. Hard to know. Portal is closed as far as guys going in, but there's still thousands of players in there. So to be continued.
1 out of 10 of Carolina's highest scores from last year, as it stands right now, would be back. That is not really what we think of when we think of college basketball. Vin Allen Lubin's statement was possibly the most confusing thing I've ever seen as relates to the transfer portal. You are going into the portal, but you want to head off people jumping to conclusions. What conclusions would they jump to when you enter the portal other than that you're going into the portal? Because that is what you are doing. And then you say that you're going into the portal, but you have every intention of coming back. All of those are very nice words to say, but what people really need to know is, are you in or out?
Well, I mean, there's no sense in dancing around this, right? Pretty much every one of these decisions comes down to 2 things. How much money am I going to make, and how much time am I going to play, right? So I think it is probably, and I am not in any way trying to go after Vin Allen Lubin here. This is any player.
We like Vin Allen Lubin.
Oh, absolutely. This is any player who enters the portal, period. You're going in to try and maximize your monetary value, and you're trying to go a place where you can play the most in a successful way. Do you agree with that?
Right.
Role and payment. That's what all of this comes down to. And so I think it is fair to say, no matter what a statement says, that you're going into the portal to try and find a higher salary and a place where you feel like you'll be able to play as much as you feel like you should play. And so that's not unique to him. I think it is any guy that goes in. All the other stuff that you think about, all the other words, none of that matters. Those are the only 2 things that matter. And I know that's hard to remember sometimes, and I get that, and it's hard to cut the emotional part of it, and I get that too. Those are the only 2 things that matter 99% of the time. How much money am I going to get, and how much am I going to play?
And I do think it's to Carolina's benefit that they do have a GM in place who can operate as though the program is going to look out for itself first. I mean, we can't be sitting here in February going, well, the Tar Heels really missed out because they were waiting on Vin Allen Lubin to decide what he was doing. If Kareem Abdul-Jabbar walks in here tomorrow and goes, I really want to play for the Heels, you're in. And if that excludes someone else, sorry.
Right.
Are you on the roster or are you on the portal? You have to be on one of those two things. If you're on the roster, you'll be accounted for. If you're not, you got to try to make the very best University of North Carolina basketball team that you can make here in April and May. And if someone's feelings get hurt or someone feels like somehow they weren't looked out for, you're looking out for the program. You have to win games. You have to compete in the ACC. You have to assemble a team that can do that, of players who are willing to say right now, today, I'm going to be a Tar Heel. That's the job. And everyone's doing their job. The individuals are doing their job by trying to maximize their money and their playing time. Totally understandable. You're not doing anything that's not within the rules. You're being enabled to do this. And by taking advantage of that opportunity, there are some risks that you have to assume.
Yep.
And I think that Carolina will operate that way in such a way that they take all those things into account and try to build the absolute best roster they can, given all the various constraints.
Last thing, at least for me on this, and it's a great point that you brought up. How that continues to play out of separating the emotional part from it from the business. And I don't know, maybe I'm not labeling these two things correctly, but I think it's very understandable, especially for a guy like Hubert Davis in this instance. Like Hubert Davis, it means something to him that he recruited a player. That means something to him. It's part of what he values. But then you get to this point where it could hurt you if you value that, which is crazy to think about. It's crazy to think that it could make you make a bad business decision by having some values of relationships and morals and things like that. It could make you make a bad business decision. So how do you try and find that balance if you're a coach, if you're Hubert Davis or Bill Belichick or anybody, of there's got to be a very cold business choice, but also as a head coach, I need to have some kind of personal relationship as well, some kind. How that gets balanced, and that's obviously not just a Carolina problem, it's a college problem. How does all that continue to shake out?
Well, part of the fun of it used to be how you got here. And Dean Smith went to see Rasheed Wallace the morning after the 93 championship. Roy Williams saw that rascal Harrison Barnes more times in Iowa than anybody else, and that includes Mike Krzyzewski, and that's why Harrison Barnes was a Tar Heel. That whole thing used to be part of your story. Your story now is who paid you the most. And we don't have those connections that we used to have because that is not what the business is today. And that's just where we are in 2025. Hopefully we'll be somewhere else in 2027.
I was trying to look at him. I thought maybe somebody had sent us an email. Maybe that's not where I saw it, but I just saw a Tar Heel fan. Again, maybe it was on social media. I don't remember. Was talking about kind of the old Seinfeld of, you're cheering for laundry at this point, right? So I mean, but some of that's true. You're just at some point you're cheering for the jersey right now, and whether that's good, bad, indifferent, it's going to hit different people differently. But it is what it is.
Mike Miller sent us an email that was on this topic. I don't think he mentioned the exact thing that you did, but I thought he made some great points, some of which we've just talked about.
Okay. And again, I don't know if Carolina's done building its basketball roster or not. That'll be something we all watch unfold here over the next couple of weeks when that roster is closer to as final as it can be in maybe mid-summer or something, in like a month. I guess that's the beginning of summer, really. Then we'll tackle it then when we can actually talk a little bit more about the individual pieces and how they fit together.
If anyone says right now today that the Tar Heels are not looking at adding other options, that is incorrect.
Yeah, I would think that would be incorrect. Whether or not they do, I
Right.
guess is my point.
Right.
The Tar Heels aren't sitting there twiddling their thumbs waiting for summer practice to begin.
Right. My team's not on the floor,
Right.
says Gene Hackman.
Adam, anything else football, basketball-wise before we get to our interviews?